This is Fofi, a giant spider cryptid that is said to dwell deep within the Congolese forests. But is it real?
Imagine the scene. 3 missionaries decide to explore the jungle in the Congo. However, after some time, the Congolese authorities found their untouched camp and their belongings. What they do not find is the 3 missionaries themselves.
So if a spider is this large, I don't know, your car's probably just going to crumple into a tin can if you run into this thing.
Exactly. And how are you going to defeat this thing if it attacks you? There isn't a newspaper large enough to roll up in the world.
Yeah.
The only signs of any disturbance found on the camp are some drag marks that lead them into the darkness within the thick jungle. After some time, the only survivor of this harrowing event proved to be a man known as Robert Hale. Unfortunately, the traumatized man could not help the authorities figure out what happened to his companions.
Well, while this is one of the best documented encounters with this nightmarish creature, it isn't the only one. Allegedly, the first time this creature was spotted by a Western explorer, it cost him his life.
All the shaken man could repeat was that he saw a shadow with many arms lowering itself from the trees. While the authorities were compelled to dismiss the accounts of the shaken man, they could not ignore the presence of the thick silk they found in the deserted camping site. What could have happened to those men, and who was responsible for their disappearance? Join us as we take a look at the legend of the Congolese jungle.
Fofi is a giant spider cryptid said to inhabit the Congolese forests. Descriptions vary between a funnel web spider and a gigantic tarantula. We thought the latter would be more pragmatic, but the funnel webs made it to the final artwork. As I said, the tarantula type was decided early on, being that a myriad of tarantulas roam the Congolese forests.
The Congo Rainforest and the creature that lurks in the darkness. Considered to be one of the largest rainforests in the world, this has proved to be the home of one of the most elusive creatures that is known to lurk in the darkness of the thick trees. Referred to as the Fofi, this giant spider is etched into the minds of the locals, as they believe that it is not a friendly creature at all. One thing that the locals and the explorers have in common when it comes to this creature is that they have come across the massive webs that this so-called giant spider leaves behind in its wake. They are so thick that they look like white ropes, that are so big that they are capable of blocking entire pathways. Another thing that they have learned about it is that you do not want to be caught in its wicked web. Just take a look at what happened to this Congolese soldier that was serving in the Belgian army back in the 40s. One day, he stumbled back into his outpost looking worse for wear. Not only was he covered in webs, he reported that he could not move his legs one bit. After some analysis, they found traces of venom in his blood. Interestingly enough, though, they were surprised as they could not find any match for the toxins with any spider that they had on record. Frazzled, the Belgian army decided that it was best to zone off the surrounding area for 6 months. Although we never knew why, there was a sense of trepidation from then on. This did not stop reports from the local baka hunters from emerging from the forests. According to them, they kept on coming across dead monkeys that had no visible injuries on them. Odd, right? However, this was not as odd as the thin silk layers that were wrapped around the monkeys when they found them. To make matters worse, it was clear that something had fed on the monkey, because they had been drained of all their essence. As if that wasn't bad enough, the hunters also eventually came across a poor child's clothing next to a depression in the mud. He had wandered away from his village some time ago, and had not been seen for quite some time. Looking back at the impression in the middle, it looked like a human footprint, but it was much wider than that of any man. Unfortunately, the details of this story were dismissed by scientists to be the stuff of legend or folklore. Despite this, the tribe was adamant about what they knew. Perhaps more importantly, they knew exactly how to survive such an experience with this strange creature. The rules of survival. The tribes of the Congo Rainforest were always wary of their dangerous neighbor. They didn't treat it as a mythical creature. Some would even say, went as far as studying the creature's pattern and habits. That was the only way they knew to survive this space with this creature was to observe it while respecting its boundaries. They are also so frightful of the creature that travelers will eventually learn that Jaiba is only a softened version of the name of the creature. Like some Voldemort-like creature, the tribesmen believed that the mere utterance of the creature's real name will attract it at night. As eerie as this may sound, the locals do not believe that this is the stuff of mere superstition. They are convinced that the creature is able to detect sound vibrations from a long distance. To increase their chances of survival, the tribesmen also made sure that they avoided certain walking paths as much as possible. This is due to the fact that those paths are known for their utter and complete silence. This cannot be a good sign, especially as most forest creatures do make their unique calls. This silence could only mean that there was a large predator on the loose, and as such, they would not want to get caught up with it in the middle of nowhere. The creature proved to be so dominant that elders hesitantly revealed it to some travelers. Referred to as the Night of the White Bones, the elders told of a time where a hunting party somehow found itself deep within what could only be defined as the restricted territory of the giant spider. Unfortunately, they were not aware of their mistake until it was too late. Before they knew it, they were surrounded by trees filled with half-finished raccoons. A closer look told them that these cocoons were filled with the half-finished meals of the spider. Alas, these seals were made up of human bodies. Truly hair-raising stuff. Understandably, the hunters fled the scene, and since then, the tribesmen have avoided that part of the forest for good. Once they told the story, researchers wanted to know why the elders didn't make this tale public. They revealed that when they did so, explorers thought it was a great idea to see things for themselves. Unfortunately, this idea proved to be a terrible one, as these travelers never came back from the forest. They were most likely killed by the creature's venomous bite. The creature is so venomous that the tribesmen never negotiate with the creature. It's kill on sight. However, the story goes that there is one scientist that just could not stay away. The Adventures of Thomas Avery. Q and Thomas Avery, the trained arachnologist who figured he got a good understanding of the warning of the tribe. However, he wasn't fully prepared for what would unfold before him when he ventured deep into the Jiba's territory. When he came across the massive spider's web, he found that it had a 3-meter span. As fascinating as the length of the webs were, it was also strange to find how thick the spider's webs were. The webs were so thick that it bent the blade of Tom's machete when he struck them with it. Stunned by this powerful spider's web, he was also fascinated by the fact that the webs seemed to contain strange protein chains that bonded with trace metals in the soil. That is why the webs were stronger and more flexible than any other spider's web that he had come across in his field of study. Following this, he discovered that there were feathers and bird bones in the webs. Add the bones of small animals of prey to the mix, and you'd find that we were dealing with a powerful predator. Once he came to terms with what he was dealing with, Avery fixed his trail cam in the location. Later on, he reviewed the tapes, and this is when he found something that left him stunned. A massive appendage that was bigger than a human arm. How big was this creature? To make matters worse, Avery made contact with the web and found that his arm was burning. That meant that the web was carrying powerful digestive enzymes. As if that wasn't bad enough, coming to terms with the fact that the web was strong enough to digest him, Avery had to deal with an attack from the giant spider. In fact, he had to deal with several of these 8-legged creatures. Luckily, he was able to flee the scene before he met his demise. However, when he came out of the dangerous situation, he found that nobody believed him. In fact, many believed that even Avery was not real. Whatever the case may be, one thing is clear, and that is that you do not want to wander into the Congo rainforest alone. It might be the last thing that you do.